Welcome to the Clean Power Hour Live, bringing you the latest and greatest clean energy news every other week. It's April 17th. I'm at Lake Chickamauga in Tennessee, outside of Chattanooga, and it's a glorious day. I am here for a regatta. There's a sailing club just behind me there with some sailboats, and life is really good. Welcome to my co-host, Mr. John Weaver. Welcome to the show, John.
That's not bad, Tim. Hanging out with the boats with a beautiful blue sky. That's not a bad place to be. It's not very wind powered right now, though. You were talking, so that's kind of funny. But it is solar powered.
There's a light breeze now, so that's good because it's kind of hot. It's 85. It's a warm day, but it's beautiful. And two of the great things about this is it's technology, aka sailboats, and people. Lovely people. So I get to combine two of my true passions. And then sustainability is in the mix here, actually, right? Because wind powers many things in our society. Many parts of our grid are now wind powered. And someday, 40% of the grid will be wind powered. And you just think about the impact, John, that boats have had on humanity. Like, from everything from a canoe to a bearskin kayak or a sealskin kayak, like that rocked humanity's world historically. So boats are really important technology.
Yeah, I mean, I know nothing about boat history, other than stories about us crossing the world with them. But I'm assuming that boats go back to kind of way back when, further
thousands
than
and thousands of years.
Yeah, I'm going to guess boats predate written history. So they're probably a prehistory type of thing.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. So we can talk about news. I got cool stuff to talk about, every week.
and first, I got to give a shout out because I went to Dean Solen's factory in a little town called Portland, Tennessee, which is an hour north of Nashville. And Joe Farney was kind enough, his chief of staff was kind enough to invite me down. I'm going to put just a few still photos. We're going to produce a full podcast episode from this visit. But there's Dean Solon. Many of you know him because he puts on good parties at trade shows for Scholes. He's the founder of Scholes, and he's now a billionaire because he sold Scholes. But and there was some news that we released during the recording, which is that he made the Forbes list of 250 self-made millionaires in America. These are people like Oprah Winfrey and Bill Gates and so many legends. But and I learned that one of the criteria is coming from humble beginnings. Thus, the self-made people or self-made people. He grew up in steel country in Gary, Indiana, very humble roots, but is a beast of an entrepreneur. And at Create here in Tennessee, he's got an amazing car and motorcycle collection. I didn't get a shot there of the motorcycles, but there I did. He's a self-described gearhead, and the very interesting thing about Create, so they're making trackers, so racking. They're making inverters. They partnered with SMA. They're building SMA inverters at their factory. They're making batteries with Socomec, a French battery company. And they're making balance of system and then a software system that connects it all. Oh, and they have a autonomous mowing company. They bought Graze Robotics. So 6 major elements of there's more to it. But anyway, one of his things is he's trying to create very robust solar construction projects that last for 50 years. He's really down on cheap construction, and he mentioned some projects that he knows of that were dysfunctional after just 2 years in the field. So Dean is committed to helping our industry become more robust and long-lasting, and I really appreciate that. All the while being affordable and making stuff in America, like 100%. He wants 100% of his stuff made in America. So you can look forward to that episode, which is coming up. And John, do you have any questions about Dean Solon for me?
No, not now. I like to ask him questions when I meet him at conferences. He's a nice guy to
Yeah.
listen to, especially when he starts going on a riff and getting mad at something. Then he's fun because then you're going to hear all the colorful words. It's great. So I think it's
Yes.
interesting what he's doing. Um, I'm sure there's a bigger, broader plan that would be cool to read about because he's attacking little strategic spots or maybe just the whole supply chain and trying to make his own company to do it all. I don't know exactly what the bigger logic with the individual attack points, but it's really interesting to watch. I mean, he's bringing it from the ground up, and the concept of a 50-year solar power plant. We have solar panels that can last that long. Glass on glass bifacial panels seem to have very long-term lives. At one point, I was told by somebody, no financier would care about a 50-year module because they're probably going to repower it halfway through with new tech to get more energy out of the same site, throw some batteries on it.
Yeah.
But we're in that early stage where we're going to learn about these things, these repowerings. We're sort of seeing repowering because this is a repowering conversation or not. It's either you build it initially for 50 years and it lasts 50, or there's repowerings in the midst of it. And
Yeah.
I wonder what that's going to look like. Again, we're starting to see it with wind farms a lot. It's been going on for a while. They're getting bigger farms at the same sites. I haven't seen somebody explicitly like repower a solar plant with super efficient modules and ultra dense and throwing batteries behind the original interconnection. That's what my next pie in the sky. All I want to see for Christmas is a
And that
full
harkens
on
to my
repowering.
recent episode with Matt Murphy of formerly of Greenbacker. I can't remember his current company, but check out that episode. He is in the repowering business. But just real quick, when it comes to reliability, for example, this is a water tank that has fuses. These are large. I don't know what the amperage of these fuses are, but they're submersing the fuses for months at a time and then measuring how much the ampacity of the circuit is impacted by water influx. And he's calculated that his technology is 1,000 times better than the existing standard. So that's just an example. He's very interested in preventing. You think of a solar connector, right? And when that's on a tracker, the tracker is rotating and it causes the connector to rotate a little bit. Well, he's now designed a cage that goes around that connector to prevent stress on the electrical connection and putting more stress on the wire insulation. So, very innovative. He's got a lot of innovative ideas. He reminds me a lot, honestly, of Elon Musk. And I don't know if he's in the same category of genius as Elon Musk. He's in a better category in terms of him as a person. I get the sense that he's a very caring person. He cares about his employees and he cares about the United States in ways that I don't think Elon really does. But I digress.
I think one of the interesting things about Dean's position coming from the wiring segment is the innovations that he's talking about are not the big whiz bang, perovskite solar panel or some new cutting edge thing. He's talking about fixing little things, many of them. It reminds me of that word I've heard about in Japan. It's you attempt to get a little better every day.
Yeah.
These are some of the things, and this is multiple times. Nothing you've said today about your visit changed from prior conversations I've heard about Dean's new work. And Dean's new work is about fixing all the little things. And that just sounds interesting. And him coming from being the guy who touched all the wires, he's the type of person to have that type of insight. So it's interesting. It's interesting to hear about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you wrote a story in TV magazine, batteries buying free California solar, driving up
Yes.
price.
Yes. Very interesting to me. And nobody liked my headline, by the way, Tim. So I guess they said my headline was horrible on Reddit.
Well,
They're
nothing
like,
is free, John. Nothing is free.
Of course not. But wholesale electricity in California during the daytime is negatively priced, Tim. So there's something about that, and that's what this story is about. So what's occurring now in California is, well, what's been occurring for a long term is that the duck curve. And the duck curve means a whole bunch of electricity being produced in the daytime. There's an excess, quote unquote, excess volume of electricity. There have been headlines spilled all around. California is wasting electricity. They're pushing solar into other power grids. They're messing with the local region, all this negative stuff. And too much solar, too much this, and people just liking to complain. Well, batteries are officially doing the battery thing, the thing that we were expecting them to do. That daytime electricity, which in California is actually priced negatively, Tim. So I don't know if it's not free, but they pay people to take their electricity. That price of that daytime electricity is now increasing. And it's increasing because battery demand is driving up the price. And that is the story of the year, in my opinion.
The demand of the battery absorbing energy from the grid, right?
Yes, as soon as the sun goes up is when it starts. And it starts hitting hard at like 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, when solar's blasting. And so batteries, and then the batteries, and we discussed this a month ago, they're now running 24 hours in California. So we're taking sunlight, and most of the batteries are charging all sunlight, and we're time shifting it for all of the day. Some days it's running 24/7. Most days it's pounding into the early evening. But the key is, and here's the magic, Tim, the price of electricity in this particular day was negative 5 cents a kilowatt hour for the last 3.2 gigawatt hours worth, 3.2 gigs worth. The battery demand increased it by 4.2 cents. So instead of the solar people paying a nickel, they're paying just under a penny. And the reason they can pay is because they have contracts, they have incentives, they have production credits, they have PPAs. Their PPA could be 20 cents. So it's okay to lose a nickel in the wholesale market. They account for this. But that's changing now. And this is the old chart right here, the one you were just looking at. That was what batteries were 2 or 3 years ago, 2022.
Yeah.
So a full 4 cents, almost 4 cents, not a full 4 cents, almost 4 cents has been added to the price of daytime energy. And that's leading to, I think it's like $10,000, $10,833, if my memory serves, something like that, in 1 5-minute period of revenue, that instead of being zero, it's now going to the solar asset owners. So the value of a daytime solar power plant is now increasing in California. This is really big.
Tell me more about how this impacts either our industry or consumers and business owners.
So our industry, that means our solar, where people were saying the solar is going to consume itself. Solar is going to cannibalize itself because there's going to be so much solar in the daytime. Now that's being balanced. So this means that PPAs, this means that the solar power plants that are in regions with lots and lots of solar already, it's no longer a no-go. This now opens up those regions where they said, oh, we have too much solar. We have a duck curve. California, Germany, Europe. So the value of our solar is now worth more because the batteries are able to eat that and move it around the clock. And this is really a bigger discussion, and I actually have articles on that on this particular show. And if we want to move into the bigger question, but the medium question for now, though, and this sets the conversation. The medium question is that batteries are now pulling up the price of cheap daytime electricity, and they're competing to redeliver it over the course of the day. And that is just a big step. Now, broadly, this is the first step into 24/7 solar.
Yeah.
And
they're the virtual Dyson sphere, John. Batteries are the virtual Dyson sphere. We don't need the Dyson sphere because we have batteries. We want the Dyson sphere anyway, but we don't need it.
We're talking about, I'm writing a story. It's going to hit the PV Mag in the next week or two, but it's about medium and long duration energy storage. And right now, medium duration is taking hard punches, man. Long duration form energy, they're looking pretty cool right now.
Okay.
But if we got a whole bunch of batteries and they have software and they know how to do the, man, that's a global battery. That's a very interesting piece of tech.
Yeah, I think of form energy as like 100-hour solution, and then medium duration. Do you mean like a 10-hour solution?
Medium was defined as greater than 4, and less than 100, like 1 or 2 days, or 8 hours to 24 hours. That was medium for a while.
Yeah.
But 4 to 8 hours is now long duration lithium, and that's what that story is going to be about.
Yeah, but it's hard for the flow battery companies, I think. Maybe that's when I think medium duration, I think flow battery.
Yep, you're right.
Form is iron air. It's fundamentally different than flow, but
so interesting stuff going on there. And so this next story, I just put it on the document so we can reference it. California's got a massive volume of batteries coming. And it's interesting in this story, actually. So here's
you're talking about the CPUC story?
Yeah, do the CPUC story next, please.
Okay.
But in the battery story that we just closed, there's a report from Aurora Energy Research. That's who wrote that report. They put out that we're actually in California, and this story aligns with it. They think that battery capacity may outpace renewable capacity, which could lead toward greater upward pressure on wholesale pricing, because daytime pricing is still so much cheaper than overnight, evening, and morning. And we may see further upward outpaces solar growth, which is a really exciting thing, interesting thing. We may see the price of daytime wholesale solar electricity get pushed up further, which is wonderful for solar asset developers and long-term pricing viability. So
this the story. Yeah. The story is seeing shortage. California seeks 6 gigawatts clean power capacity by John Weaver, March 17th. Oh, that's today in PV Magazine.
That was a month ago, actually. This
is March 17th. Yes. Thank you. And
so the purpose of bringing this story up now is just to show that the state sees they need new juice. Them batteries are coming. And they even said that in this story, they expect the majority of that capacity to have batteries attached. In fact, there's no choice but to. That 6 gigawatts of clean capacity, there's no choice but it to have batteries attached to it per the requirements that's coming. And this is just,
This is very important for our national audience to understand. You're getting a glimpse into the future here. This is what's coming down the pike. What happens in California happens everywhere. There's just a lag. And so you got to skate to where the puck is going. And you're no longer a solar installer. You're a battery installer who also does solar. That's just the way it is. Love it or leave it, I say. But if you don't embrace batteries as an energy professional, you're done.
You have to. I mean, everything in this document, everybody should read it if you're a California person. Just understand you have no choice. I mean, legally for the large scale stuff, if you want to get in on this procurement, your solar has to have batteries attached to it. And this is it, man. There's a story on Bloomberg this week where they're now going to push developers to include solar in all of Germany's procurements. And we may see some new legislation coming from Germany for that. And so batteries. I mean, we've been talking about batteries so much, but solar has to feed them batteries. But really, batteries is something we all need to learn. It's our career now.
It is. And it's, as I've said on the show before, it is somewhat rocket science. How, the controlling a battery and optimizing its value stack is somewhat rocket science. So you need very smart partners like Intelligent Generation. There's a handful of these companies, and it's regional. So you got to know your region and who's a good player. Intelligent Generation is just my favorite for PJM, which is a huge ISO, but that's only one ISO. It's the largest ISO, John. All right, what's our next story?
Community solar, Timothy. 10 gigs.
Hey. Yeah, and this is another guidepost, I think, an important guidepost for our listeners. The title of this story is U.S. Community Solar passes 10 gigawatt milestone despite market contraction. So it's the best of times, it's the worst of times. A tale of twin cities that's the quote, right? And it's the best of times, okay, because, well, hey, we're humans on Earth and we're alive in 2026 and life is good. There's a boom going on because of the OBBB. Thank you, Donald Trump. You created a boom in the solar industry. Just remember that. We want that to be remembered. It did create a boom. Now, there is a potential bust coming at the end of that boom. Hopefully not. Hopefully we can create enough growth and bringing down the cost of solar that we just ride through that, the loss of the ITC, right? There are many people, including myself, who feel that the ITC is not necessary. We will survive the ITC-free world. But anyway, if you're working in New York, in Massachusetts, in Illinois, in Minnesota, in Colorado, in New Mexico, so many markets, you are experiencing a robust community solar market. And now, and this graph shows it well, right? We had a peak in 2024 of 2 gigawatts of install, right? And then it dropped down a little bit. And then it is going to drop down even more down to 2030. But the cumulative total is rising up to 16 gigawatts. We're past. Looks like we're going to pass 12 gigawatts this year of installed. So, and community solar. Why do we care about community solar, John?
I care about community solar because it puts a lot of distributed, middle-sized projects widely across the market.
Yes.
And it's an extension of commercial and residential. It puts down the distribution.
Who does community solar matter most for?
I mean, I would say local communities. The savings of community solar hypothetically pass on to apartment dwellers, people who don't own their home, people who can't install solar on their roof, businesses too. That's where the savings go. But the savings are limited because you don't really own a project. But I would argue the local installers, local businesses, local power grid, local landowners who want to be in the solar biz, so want to be in the industry, but they're not utility scale. And so apartment dwellers, non-homeowners, people who don't have a big house, they get the electricity.
Thank you.
Then you get lots of local people who get to install it. So it's really, it's community. That's the name of it. That's why it's named that way. It's local
and it's
solar.
It's for consumers who don't want solar on their roof or can't afford solar on their roof, or who are renters and thereby cannot put solar on their roof, don't own the building, or they have a big tree in their yard like Tim Montague. So many people can benefit. I've signed up for Nexamp Community Solar, by the way, now. I still have not been assigned to a project. I signed up about a month ago. My son finally guilted me into it. Thank you, Finn. He's right. I should definitely be a community solar subscriber. And I now have my mini balcony solar, 400 watt foldable solar panels, and my power bank. It's just not plugged into my house. I'm working on that. I actually need to hire an electrician. If there's any electricians in Champaign that want to fix my outlet on the back in the backyard, but all right, I love this story. Before we leave this story, it notes that the long-term growth is now heavily dependent on the establishment of new markets in Ohio, Iowa, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. So, if you're anywhere near those markets, know that there is a burgeoning solar market coming in those places. And today there's only 5 really good solar markets, but in 5 years there'll be 20. It's going to grow, just like the same with battery markets, right? There's only a handful of really good battery markets, but that the wave is coming. So you gotta get in the game, and you're in the community solar development game, John.
Yeah, yes, we are. Very lightly, not in like the
Yeah.
bigger one like we were in New York, but we definitely participate in it. And our project is online, our first one, the Farmer Brown Solar in
Yeah, we showed
Southern.
that last time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I
All right.
sort of, 2 projects we're developing now. They're going to sell into community solar in Massachusetts. So we're in it. We're next to it, definitely.
Oh, and now we're going to show a lovely O and M,
Yeah.
a lovely O&M photo.
Yes. So everybody, do I need to clean my solar panels? That's the real question. Well, today we need to clean these solar panels. So the customer has been asked, we got a message, hey, our production's down for the week, or production's been down for a while. And we're like, yeah, that's true. We need to schedule our annual checkup and look at your numbers. They are down about 5-10%, at least 10%. And we finally
But
got up on their roof, and this is what was going on.
now this is when I first saw this, John, I thought it was hail damage. But now that I look closer, I see that it's bird droppings. Right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is it
What this
seagulls or what's?
seagulls? These are seagulls. We when this project was initially built, it was seen and pointed out to the customer that there were seagull nests on one of the roofs. Not this one,
Mm,
the center
yeah.
roof. This is the roof to the west. And those seagulls, we said, hey, you guys are gonna have to manage this. This is gonna be an issue. We actually also had to replace a module which had a cohog, a shell, which is essentially just a big mussel type
Yeah.
shell that seagulls will pick up. They'll drop on rocks, open them up, eat the insides. And so
Yeah.
they use solar panels. And so this is the O&M project of the week, man. Sometimes you're
So
just
the
gonna
the
deal with.
cohog had cracked the panel.
Yes, that's their job. Yes. So we
I'm going to have
replaced
to
the panel,
mention
and
that to Dean Solon. Maybe he can solve that problem too.
man, that's a big quahog, man. This is, they're not going the same speed as
Yeah,
hail. They're not falling from the
that's like a
sky, but
baseball.
yes, they're something special. So yeah, that's a New Bedford challenge, is dealing with quahogs.
Was this
It's
your
been new deal.
install?
Yes, we installed this project.
Well,
So
you better get your scrub brush out. That's going to be a dirty job.
yep. Somebody's gonna be up there. We have a couple of cleaning crews. We're working on a quote for that to get it cleaned.
And I would
But
say O&M is another great opportunity, right? I'm I'm bringing a dedicated O&M story to the pod soon. But it's a growing opportunity, right? There's enough installed solar. There'll be enough stranded systems where the installer is no longer around, and the building owner or homeowner needs an O&M company. And Dean Solon, thought just vegetation control was a big enough problem that he bought a company called Graze Robotics and is further developing that autonomous. It's an electric, fully autonomous mowing robot. But all right, let's talk about BYD.
you're gonna hear me talk about
B,
batteries a whole lot, Tim, every single day.
B, BYD unveils world's largest 14.5 megawatt hour DC energy storage system.
Yes.
14.5 megawatt hour.
Now, there's a key sentence within this, though, that's actually more important than the overall size. And I'm going to read it off. It comes out of the article. It's about halfway down. And
So
the
let's level set here for context. I think a 5 megawatt hour system or block would be that's like a big container, a big utility scale battery container.
Yeah. Standard 20-foot long. That's the standard Tesla size about now. It's just over 4. So yeah, that's a standard container, 5 megawatt hours.
Okay. So what has BYD done?
So first, they have a giant container. That's cool. It's split up into a couple pieces. But look at that third paragraph and look at the last sentence. It's really just one sentence. That right there, the total life cycle cost per kilowatt hour will be 1.4 cents.
Mm-hmm.
So you know how we were talking about negatively priced solar being bought by batteries just a moment ago?
Yeah.
Imagine if a battery dude in Cali installed his battery and it cost him 1.4 cents per kilowatt hour to move electricity into it. And he's buying solar. He's not buying solar. He's being paid to buy solar at negative 0.8 cents. So now, effectively, negative 0.8 plus 1.4 is 0.6 cents per kilowatt hour. That is cheaper than wholesale overnight coal and gas anywhere on Earth. Now, most places aren't going to have negative solar. It needs to be at least 3 cents per kilowatt hour. So now what we're talking about, if you can get solar at 3 to 4 cents per kilowatt hour with no incentives, no crap, straight pure solar, 3.3 to 4. Now you put on a penny and a half and some profit. So now we're talking, let's say 4.5 to 7 to 6 cents per kilowatt hour for solar plus storage 24/7. That's I mean, we've been saying game over, solar's the cheapest. It's cool, man. Solar's cheaper than gas. But what happens when the sun goes down? Well, guess what, Tim? This is what happens when the sun goes down. 1.4 cents per kilowatt hour is our adder. Plus maybe some loss for efficiency. I don't know the math because I'm not deep like Vincent is, but this is where it's headed. 1.4 cents per kilowatt hour for the value for the cost of using a battery. If we can, in the US, they were signing PPAs at 2 cents. So if you can buy solar for 2 cents and it costs you a penny and a half, you can deliver wholesale equivalent to gas. Gas is 3-4 cents. And if we can really truly beat gas, man, that's something special. That's it. That's the beginning of the end.
Yeah, I didn't realize. It says here that, okay, so first I have to
talk about it.
I have to say where this story ESS News, which is the PV Magazine publication or not?
Yes, sir. No, PV Magazine's battery publication.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so by Vincent Shaw and Maria Maish.
Yes.
And this is an old story.
Well, yes. It's being brought up because we're talking about the other things, but yes, it is an old story. Yes, sorry about that, everybody.
But it mentions that Tesla rolled out a 20 megawatt hour mega block, which I did not know. We've been asleep at the wheel, John. We haven't been covering all the storage news.
We talked about Tesla Mega Block a while ago. Trust me, we did.
Okay.
It was launched at RE Plus. It launched at RE Plus last year. The Mega Block. There was an overriding event. It's really just 4 blocks. That's all it is, with a shared infrastructure in the middle, with a big transformer. So it's not like magic. The real cool thing about it is the wiring in the center is what the Mega Block is. So this is just a magical battery, man. This is the start of the next batteries, and a penny and a half per kilowatt hour. So it's just a cool thing, and it lines up with, say, these next 2 stories. Like you're looking at the one with India that you're looking at right now. India says that they could cover 90% of their total grid at about 5.6 cents per kilowatt hour solar plus storage. There's other research right now that says 90% of the world's electricity can be covered with solar plus storage alone at today's cost. This is a shift that has occurred recently, Tim, and it's occurred within the last year or 2. Like I've
Yeah.
been, covering the news for like a year and writing articles saying solar and wind can get to 80%. And that was the optimistic angle that people were taking. They're like, yeah, it used to be solar plus wind 50%, then 60, then 70, then 80 was like this great breakthrough. And everybody's like, all right, the last 20 we'll get from here and here. Now we're seeing research coming out of India. We're seeing research coming out of the other story that's on the document, which we don't have to cover. And it says that 90% of the world's energy can be covered by 90% solar plus storage. The only places that have a big risk are the northern areas of Europe. Everywhere else is within this band that's close enough to the equator where 90%.
And in Northern Europe, they've got plenty of wind, so
That's the
no
pitch.
problem.
They got lots of hydro, they got some nuclear, so they can get to that 20, 30, 40%. So this combination of solar and storage, Tim, people have been preaching about it. Well, now it's no longer preaching, Tim. Now it's hitting stuff. It's starting to hit in a different way. And we're going to repeat it. Hey, you solar people, you better be battery people. This is your job now. You better figure it out because it's coming. And plenty of people are going to be battery experts. And there's a neat little piece of data in this story, actually, if you wouldn't mind, Tim. Scroll up a tiny bit. It shows a ratio. Okay, right in that middle paragraph. It says, in other words, 4.9 gigawatts of solar plus 13.5 gigawatts of battery is equal to 1 gigawatt of pure 24/7 load. This number is similar to that 24-hour power plant in Abu Dhabi. I don't know if you remember that one from the news.
Yeah,
so
I remember
that
it well.
So that 1 gigawatt plant came with 5 gigs of solar and 19 gigawatt hours of battery. So we're starting to see, Tim, what it's going to take capacity-wise for the solar industry to take over. Like, run the show, be 90%. These are some ratios near the equator. As it goes north and south a little, maybe the solar has to be 6 gigs, 7 gigs. Maybe the batteries have to be 15, 18, 20 hours to get this load thing and calculus work. But in the United States, where we have, say, 1.5 terawatts of like 50 to 70% capacity factor, that means we're probably going to be, 4 terawatts of solar, somewhere in that range, and 5x the number of batteries. So we're starting to see shapes, larger contours of the way the world is going to look in these numbers right now, which is cool. The earlier numbers, they'll keep changing, but this is the beginnings of seeing the future pretty clearly.
Yeah, I love that. The contours. We're seeing the contours of the future, and it's just like it's a bit like an iceberg. You only see what's above the surface, but there's a whole bunch coming, and LCOE is what's driving this. And as we see, the fossil economy is so problematic. Fossil fuels are not equally distributed around the world. Absolutely. They are very spotty. The sun, on the other hand, sun and wind are very relatively equally distributed around the world and much more accessible. So if you want national security and uninterrupted supply chains, I noted on my way down here that I'm paying between 20 and 30% more for gasoline now at the pump than I was 2 months ago because of the war in Iran, which is, in my opinion, driven by the fossil industry. I don't truly know who's pulling the strings behind the scenes because I am not an elite, but some smart people have done that analysis. All right, John. So thanks so much for the great news. I think we should wrap up the show right there. Are you good with that?
Sure. You know what? We're talking about gas. One item.
Okay.
Price of gas has held flat. I'm talking natural gas, electricity, gas. Complements what you said. price of natural gas has held flat in the midst of all this ongoing warfare, man. It's interesting to watch. The price of oil is going up in the United States, which leads to more oil pumping. We have a warm front that came through in March, still going on in April, and that extra oil means extra natural gas. And a couple weeks ago, I was telling everybody, hey, increase your forward pricing for natural gas because the price of electricity is going to go up. And I'm just pointing out, hey, everybody, a minute ago, I was telling you about the future and how I know stuff. Well, here's a reminder. I don't know jack. So, don't invest. Don't invest based on John Fitzgerald Weaver. Maybe build some solar, but that's beyond that. Don't, talk to Tim. He's the smart one.
Well, my whole goal in life is to be less wrong. So
Yeah.
I am mostly wrong. All right.
So that's
well,
it.
check
That's
out
what
all,
I got.
That's good. Check out all of our content at cleanpowerhour.com. Give us a rating and a review if you're so inclined. But more importantly, tell a friend about the show. So many people do not know the Clean Power Hour exists, and we're giving you 2 shows a week, the live, and then another interview twice a week. Tuesday and Thursday we're dropping, so check it out, cleanpowerhour.com. We're on YouTube, we're on Apple, we're on Spotify, we're everywhere you can listen to podcasts. And John Weaver, more importantly, how can humanity find Mr. John Weaver?
Smoke signals. You could also just go to commercialsolarguy.com. That's our number one place. And I'm on LinkedIn a lot. We like to share the stuff we construct. So commercialsolarguy.com and LinkedIn to look up the Commercial Solar Guy. You can find us.
All right, we'll be back in 2 weeks. And I want to thank you for being here, all of our great listeners. And with that, I'll say let's do some sailing this weekend and enjoy the lovely breeze that is going to be here tomorrow. With that, I'm Tim Montague. Let's grow solar and storage.